right on time. Good
and
evening.
on time.
We are right on time, 6 o'clock. Happy Thursday. Good evening, everyone. Tonight's topic is
Independent seat.
You're on it. You know the topic for tonight.
Occasionally, I pay attention to something.
And that is because this week's YouTube video is an epic video featuring Ingrid Klimke and her best tips to develop an independent seat. I don't know about you, but I feel like Ingrid is definitely one of my favorite riders to watch. She has just like such an amazing seat and position.
Just her presence, her skill, just the comfort she's in the saddle. And it's just happening with that. Well, it doesn't seem like she's thinking. It's just happening.
We watched her at Aachen last summer, that was such a fun trip. We went to Aachen and we got to see like a bunch of the horses getting ready for the Olympics.
And we saw her warm up at the World Cup the year before.
That's true. And she rides in one of those old saddles that have no thigh blocks, no knee rolls. And her position is just like, she's just a part of the horse. She moves with the horse. Her aids are so soft and invisible, like for the flying changes. Yeah. So I was inspired to make that video because I was able to interview Ingrid Klimke earlier this year for our Stride students, it was such an amazing interview. And she said in there that every single week she takes her stirrups away and bridges her reins and works on transitions to improve her seat.
I like the part where she said she doesn't ride scary horses or horses. If she's scared, she doesn't ride that horse.
She said that too. But that was more in reference to, because I asked her, like, if you're afraid, what do you do about it? And she was like, that's like the worst thing, especially with cross country. If you're scared, she was like, you have to get up your confidence and you have to just like get over your fear. You cannot get on a horse and have fear.
Right. Because then you're just always going to do the wrong thing.
Yeah. But so much of your seat and developing your position, it's a lifelong journey. And I think that's what that interview really brought out in Ingrid, is that she's one of the best riders in the world. And yet she's still always working on improving her seat and on getting better there. And I think that's just super admirable. So why is riding without stirrups a good exercise to improve your seat?
Because necessity is the mother of invention. And if you don't have your stirrups, you will develop a seat.
Yes, for sure. And bridging the reins?
Also, because it helps give you a different sensation, and you can't hang on the horse's mouth anymore.
Yeah. So let me know in the chat if you've been riding without stirrups.
As Hannah has been doing until bad things happen.
Hannah was bridging her reins and no stirrups, it's hard. Because it takes away like your grounding of your feet and what you want to do with your hands, and it makes you ride more from your seat. But
because it's all you've got left, and your body's like, okay, I guess we'll use that.
Yes. Okay. What other announcements do I have on my list? I made a little list here. So first of all, next Sunday, the 25th, not this Sunday, because I'm going to Utah tomorrow to teach for 3 days. Next Sunday, I'm going to be doing an independent seat webinar. So the link is there for you in the chat if you want to sign up for that, because I feel like your seat is the foundation of riding. Other things are the Canter Challenge. The Canter Challenge is going epically well. I'm so proud of everyone. Let me know in the chat if you're in the Canter Challenge. The lecture on Wednesday that I did was all about the canter transition. And I kind of broke it down into the prerequisites that you need, and then the aid itself, and then troubleshooting and problem solving, because so many things can go wrong in the canter transition.
It seems much bigger than the walk to trot, doesn't it?
Yeah. You know what else was super interesting is at the beginning of the lecture, I put together some slow-mo of Mercurio going from trot to canter. And then I put together Mick going from trot to canter.
That's a different look.
Yeah. Because Mercurio like really organized himself and got round and pushed off the outside hind into the canter. And Mick kind of did this like weird thing. Mick is my new horse, for those of you who don't know. He did this weird thing where he like tried to start with the inside hind. And then so the transition was like more downhill, and it was just like discombobulated.
Yeah, it's a little out of balance.
It wasn't right. But if you slow down the trot canter transition into like super, super slow-mo, it's pretty crazy to see.
If you slow down the video of the transition, not if you're
Yes.
doing the transition.
Okay.
Don't make it slow.
Okay.
Yeah.
The video.
Yeah.
So, because I put it into like 10%. So it's going like, I guess it's like going 90% slower. So it's going like frame by frame. And it's really cool to see the horse fold up, lower onto the outside hind, lift the other legs, and then land into the lead. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of trippy to see what the horse has to do. And it definitely gives you an appreciation for how important like the preparation and the timing and your aid and the balance and the everything is just
Well, that's
right.
why the preparation and the aid is so, because of the balance. Because if you don't do the preparation and you just go a little slapdash about it, it'll be out of balance, and nothing good happens out of balance.
Yes. So that was the excitement this week in the Canter Challenge. The other thing, we have so much coming up. So we're going to be doing another boot camp in June. Like, I feel like this year has gone by so fast. So in June, we're going to do another boot camp, and we have a lot of cool topics. We asked our stride students to vote on topics. And one of the topics everyone wants to hear about is training principles, which I thought was a really good topic to cover, is like training principles. And then we looked it up and we're like, okay, what are some training principles? What's one of your favorite training principles?
Well, the pressure and the release.
Yeah, that's a good one, because that's like the foundation of how you train your horse to do anything.
And then the follow-up to that is, never go past an opportunity to reward your horse.
That's a good one that I forget sometimes.
Never skip that, because in the world of dressage, and we're letter perfect, you have to reward the effort. You have to reward that teeny bit that the horse tried, and you go, yes. And so you create that work ethic where the horse always wants to try, because it gets rewarded for trying.
Yeah, for sure. But it is, I think we all forget to reward our horses. And I think too, in training, that you do have to have certain principles or guidelines that you follow. Otherwise, it's really easy to get lost or confused or to go down the wrong path. And so it is a really good topic. So
right, because then if you have those in place, then you know what decisions to make at whatever, just like the training scale.
So I'm going to put together my top 5 principles as one of the trainings for the boot camp coming up. Let's get on to the questions. If you're here watching live and you have questions, please put them in the chat, or just say hello if you're having a good day and you're happy to be here.
Or those of you who are quite happy with the Canter Challenge.
Yes, I see a lot of people.
There's a lot of happiness.
Yes, it's a great challenge. It's been very fun. And we're only halfway through it because it's only May 15th. So, okay, RJ says, how do you sit the trot on a horse with a long elevated trot?
So take it in little pieces, because I'm assuming that you're riding your regular collected trot okay, but then when you go to the medium, you're having some trouble. So I would suggest to start in the shoulder in, and then ride, 10, 15 meters of a medium, and then bring that back, shoulder in, and then a little bit medium. And you could do the medium across the half diagonal or the long diagonal and just bring it back by the center line. But don't try and do it all at once, and familiarize yourself with that feeling, because generally most people are okay for, 6, 8, 10 steps. And then it starts, it's like that pendulum, right? It starts to swing and swing and swing, and then it's out of control. So just do short bits of it until you're a little more familiar and comfortable.
I would also add to that you should really work on your horse's throughness and like the roundness and the engagement. Because usually if your horse is like really bouncy or difficult to sit the trot, it's because they're not using their back properly. And so the more that you can get the bridge of muscle coming up through their back and then really round, then the trot is actually easier to sit. I mean,
right, because they lift you up and set you down at the next step, and the round back will lift you up and set you down.
Yeah. So those shorter bits of it will help with that, as well as going back and doing more collected work like trot, walk, trot, or rein back, or all of that, because the medium trot or the extended trot is a movement that you don't really want to practice very much, because it's a lot of wear and tear on your horse. You actually want to practice more collection, because collection, like true collection, leads to extension, not the other way around.
Right, because you need the strength, the body building, that collection. You need those muscles.
Okay, next question is from Anne. This is a really good question because, and it's funny because today I was filming some reels with sticky notes, and I was putting sticky notes like on my legs and on Kensington's side. It was kind of fun. So you have those coming soon. But her question is, explain the upper and lower leg uses for turning and bending.
Upper leg for turning and lower leg for bending.
Yes. Okay. But for the upper leg, it's really only your outside upper leg.
Yeah.
So like if you're turning left, you can use your outside, your right upper leg a little bit pressing to help turn. But the thing with your upper leg is it's not really enforceable. Like you can't only
reinforce it. It's not like you can go to the auxiliary driving aid if they don't listen to that.
Yeah. You kind of have to use your outside rein
to back up. And upper leg, I just think knee in, because that brings my upper leg in.
But then if your horse doesn't listen to knee in, you can't push harder with your knee, because then you're going to lock your seat or twist in your body and just like start doing weird things. So it's kind of like your upper leg suggests the turn by putting up a little wall. But then if your horse doesn't listen to that upper leg, you need to follow through with your outside rein.
And you could even maybe just a little idea of a counterflexion and move that outside front leg underneath the horse's chin.
Okay, what about for bending? What should we do with our legs for bending?
Then you want to make sure that your calf, and then, I think my knee, thigh a little soft, and calf up in.
On the inside
leg. On the inside leg at the girth.
And the outside leg.
Slightly back, framing it on the outside, guarding the haunches, as it says in the book.
Yes. So, and that bending, we talked about that in the canter challenge. Getting your horse bending is an important prerequisite so that you get the correct lead. So for those of you who their horse takes the wrong lead, it's probably because your horse isn't bending properly before you ask for the canter. And it is tricky because the bending aids are similar to the canter aids, but we talked about that too. So watch the lecture if you're in the canter challenge. Mateo, how can you tell if you have the right stirrup length?
Rule of thumb that the stirrup goes between your ankle bone and your heel, okay? Because everybody's a little different from the knee to the ankle and from your hip to your knee. Those lengths are, so somewhere between your ankle and your heel is where the stirrup's going to hang. Now, if you reaching with your toe, right? If your toe is beneath your heel, they're too long, obviously, right? Because you're reaching with your toe, and you'll have that, and it'll straighten out your knee, and that's not good. And then the other one is if it's too short, like above your ankle, your knee's going to get too folded up and your heel is jammed down and you've lost the flexibility. So aim for between your ankle and your heel.
It's a balance though.
Okay. Right. There's a bit of a window there. Ankle to heel. There's a window.
And sometimes if I'm on a young horse or a horse that's super like spooky, or if I'm nervous on, or if it's a smaller horse, I'll put my stirrups up one hole just so I have like a little more security.
Especially on a younger horse, because you don't really need to sit deep yet anyway. And you're a little safer there.
Okay, next question is from Nancy. How do I coordinate my seat and hand for the best success? That's an interesting question.
In the usual way?
Well, your seat follows your horse's back and your hands follow the horse's
head,
which is hard.
It's simultaneous, but they're related, but they're not connected in that way, right? It's not like if your hip goes forward, your right hip goes forward, the right hand goes forward. Your hands and seat are independent. They have different jobs at the same time,
but they have to be coordinated with your horse's movement.
Yes.
And then maybe
and they have to be coordinated together if you're going to make a transition.
That's what I'm thinking. So let's say that you're going to make a downward transition. How do you coordinate your seat and your hands? That's a good question. So I think you start by pulling your tummy in and slowing down your seat. And then if your horse doesn't listen to your seat, then you have to use your hands.
Fists to go along with that, so that your hand, like your hands will reinforce what you did with your seat,
Right.
but you got to start there.
Because that's another good point. Similar to the upper thigh, is that your seat isn't enforceable. Like you can't make your seat stronger. If you half halt and pull your tummy in and your horse doesn't listen to your seat, you can't do more. Like you can't get heavier or you can't completely lock up. So you do have to reinforce your seat with your hand. Whereas your leg, you can start with your calf and then you can kick and then you can tap, tap, tap. And then like you can escalate your leg aid, but you can't really escalate your seat.
Right. Because it's what it is. So your hands will support what you do there with your seat.
Yes. Okay. Capiro. I hope I'm saying that right. Do you soften your lower back? How do you soften your back to move with the horse? These are hard questions, you guys, tonight.
You soften your back, and that I do with the breathing and the relaxation. But the other big part is moving so that yeah, you bounce with your horse instead of skipping like a stone across the water. So, and this goes back to the other one. If your horse has a little flatter trot, it's easier to sit, right? It's easier to learn this motion because when they start bouncing you out of the tack, it's a learned thing how to move your body that way. And so, you could ride the trot a little under pace and sort of get a feel for the motion, but it's just really breathing and not getting tight and letting yourself bounce. And if you bounce and you get bounced out of the tack, then post, establish the rhythm again. And then when you come back to the sitting trot, make sure your heels are under you and then lower yourself slowly into that saddle. And then you can follow it for a little while until it starts to really knock. And then when it knocks you out of the tack, then you post, reestablish the rhythm, and then make sure your heels are under you and lower yourself quietly and teach yourself the feel.
Yeah, that's a good one. And also dropping your stirrups, like even at the walk, just dropping your stirrups and trying to get that feeling. Because when you ride, it's like your pelvis has to move around in all three dimensions independently from your shoulders. Like we say that, especially in the canters, like keep your shoulders still, let your hips move.
Right.
So, but the hard part about it is that nothing really mimics the like same movement or muscles that you need for riding. So like, yes, of course, go to the gym and be strong and fit and symmetrical, but
the small muscles that you use for riding, there's nothing else.
Stephanie said, that's the physical therapist. She said one time it would almost be like bouncing on a trampoline and someone trying to push you over, like push you off balance. Like those are almost the muscles that you need, those like little stabilizing muscles. But even that doesn't really simulate the movement
of the horse, where it's like being on top of a wave that's just rolling. And if the waves get big, boy howdy, you better roll.
Yeah. And I don't know if any of you have ever ridden one of the horse simulators. Have you ever ridden one of those?
I did.
And I didn't think the movement was really.
It was vaguely similar,
but not nearly the power.
But not nearly the power. It's really just, and it's so rote. It's bump, bump, bump. And then it also didn't let you, what we were talking about, the simulator didn't let you do the upper leg and the lower leg.
Yeah.
And
mine just left the arena.
Mine did too. And I've ridden the Grand Prix and my horse walked right out of the arena. Canada, I don't know. I killed myself. The horse went into a fence. So I don't know. I mean, it's a nice starting point, right? But like anything, it's you get a little familiar, a little comfortable, but there's nothing like horseback riding.
Yeah. There's a good question in the chat. How do you avoid your head bobbing at the sitting trot?
Pull it back. I think that a lot of the bobbing comes when they stick the chin out.
Okay.
I think it's pull your head back. Make sure that you've got that alignment. Your head is wherever it's supposed to be over your shoulders.
And I would add to that, let your hips move more. Because usually if your head is bobbing,
you're absorbing the bounce in your head and not in your hips.
It's not a good thing. You don't want to end up with neck issues. So, okay.
So really the alignment and get your head back, and what guy was saying, soften your back and let your hips go.
There's so many questions about your seat. I guess that's because that's tonight's topic. Is
Right,
your seat.
wouldn't it?
I'm like, why is everyone asking all these difficult questions about your
Well,
seat?
because the seat is, since it is like the prerequisite, like you have to have an independent seat. It's not easy to achieve. So there's a lot of questions.
All right. So Kay says, when I lean back for the for the upward transition. So she's doing an upward transition. She's trying to keep her shoulders back, and then she seems to get behind the motion when her horse goes, which we see happen sometimes, right? Because when the horse goes, you lean back.
Every time I'm on incognita, Julie's like, you lean forward in that canter, you lean back in that canter, you lean. So I actually, when I make that canter with that horse, I got to get a little bit in front of it so that I'm straight when we canter.
And tighten your core. I think that's like we've been talking about this
in that moment.
Every transition, you should exhale and then do the transition. So it's like inhale, exhale, trot. Because the exhale engages your transverse abs. And then when your horse accelerates,
you can stay with the motion.
If you're all floppy, then you're going to get left behind.
That must be my problem. I get too loose.
That's what I told you the other day. I was like, stop tipping around. Think about your seat.
Yes, dear. Yes, dear.
Okay. Sherry says, how do you maintain your seat so you don't rely on the reins? I want a good seat and soft hands. Me too. But sometimes I can't help relying on the reins to steady myself. I think that's all of
us. You could lie to yourself. You can tell yourself you've just made a half halt and remember to release. Because the half halt rebalances them and it rebalances us. So you just think that you're hanging on to your half halt too long. And as soon as you remember, give, because you get your horse in the giving, not in the taking. And it's learning. It's just learning. So when you find that you're, oh, wow, I'm balancing off my hands, move your hands forward and force yourself to use your seat.
Yeah. So last night, lots of times in the evening, I like to watch other training videos. And so I was watching a video of Gareth Hughes. He's a British, he's an Olympian. Yeah. And so he was teaching a student, and I really liked how he was basically telling her to do less. Like that was the premise of the entire lesson. He was like, give, do less. Don't support your horse. Even if you feel like you need to, give, throw your horse away. Yeah, your horse is like, where did you go? Hold me up. Give again. And he was like, the less you do, the better it gets, because
then the horse does more.
Yeah. And so practice that. We call that an Uber strike in. So I recommend starting just with the inside hand, but you're going to like go. And when you feel like, oh, your horse is round, your horse is balanced, your seat is feeling good, then you're going to give the inside rein. Make sure that when you give that you don't come off of your seat, that you sit really connected with your seat, because it's a test of an independent seat, which means that you can give your hand and your seat stays there. And that's also a test of your horse's self-carriage. So the more that you ride from your seat, the better your horse's self-carriage will become. Because the flip side of that is the more that you balance on your hands, the more that your horse is on the forehand and leaning into the bridle.
Necessity is the mother of invention. So if you don't hold your horse up, the horse holds itself up.
Yes. Or also you can try Ingrid's secret recipe of no stirrups and bridging reins. But that's definitely, you need to be confident.
You got to be a little more comfortable to go for that.
Yes.
And hello, Horseman Piyush in India.
Very cool. Yes. Let us know in the chat where you're watching from.
Because it's just mind-boggling. It's just amazing that people from everywhere are like, oh, wow, what's going on over there?
I know we saw on YouTube that we have, I think one of our top languages is Japanese, and we're not sure if they watch in Japanese subtitles or if they're just in Japan watching our channel.
We will investigate and find out, but it was a surprise.
And then I also started using AI to translate some of my videos into Spanish, which is kind of fun.
We had 8 viewers.
Yeah, no, we had 8 subscribers.
8 subscribers.
I think we had like 50 people watch our video in Spanish. So let us know if you speak in a different language.
Wisconsin.
This morning in our Strides video review, I had a student in Germany who her main language was German, which is always super fun, So anyways, other news coming up. Herman has been practicing his ride along podcast for you all because you all love the ride along podcast.
You're not loving mine just yet. We have not reached nirvana there.
Your second one was good.
The third one
was good, but you also picked like the hardest horse to ride because I always ride like Mercuria, who's really easy to ride, and he picked the like 6-year-old who is a little tricky at times.
Yeah, well, she's been off and she's had some emotional stuff and physical stuff, and
so, anyways, we have that to look forward to. Don't forget to RSVP for the independent seat webinar that's coming up not this Sunday, but the next Sunday because I'm going to Utah. And anything else exciting? We're going to take the dog to the dog park tonight.
She uses AI.
Oh.
British Columbia.
She uses AI so she can, okay, AI, I don't know, but it's like freaky.
It's the beginning of the Terminator, but I love it.
Yes. It's crazy what AI can do. I've definitely been looking into it, definitely been using it more. I think it's kind of like you have to be aware of what it can do and how it could help you. Because I think there's a lot of ways that we could use AI to help like organize our content and especially for our students to make it more searchable so that you could say like, I'm struggling with this and it could search all of our content and be like, here's the answer to your problem. But it's also, and it would be cool if we could translate it into, you know, all different languages, Japanese, Spanish. What do they speak in India? Hindi. I think it's Hindi. Let us know if you speak Hindi there. I think so.
And Kay there in North Carolina, I'm going to go check the score here in a minute. Hopefully you're winning.
Alrighty, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and we will be here next Thursday talking more about